A gaming home theater is probably one of the most fun things that you can invest in 2024. And today I'm going to be walking you through what exactly you should buy to set up your own gaming home theater and how to get as much value for your money as possible. And I'm going to do my best to give you a surface level knowledge of all the different things that make up a home theater. So if you're ready to experience games in a way you never have before, you clicked on the right video. First things first, you obviously can't have a gaming home theater without a TV. And for the TV category, we're going to give you 3 separate tiers of TV options to buy: ultra cheap, mid-range, and high-end. Now for TVs overall, there's a couple mainline specs that are important. First of all, size. See, when it comes to TVs, most people just assume that bigger means better. However, did you know there was an actual science behind it? There's an equation that basically gives you the ideal viewing distance for a different size of TVs, and I have a calculator linked down in the description. So for me in my gaming setup, I'm roughly at a 6-foot viewing distance, which means it's almost perfect for my size of TV, 55 inches. But if you're in a room where you're going to be quite a distance away from your display, you need a bigger TV. And this all comes down basically to field of view. For movies, a 40-degree field of view is the most optimal, and for mixed media usage, they often recommend around 30 FOV. For gaming, somewhere in between this will work. Again, if you want to calculate the ideal size or viewing distance for your TV, just check the calculator in the description. But size isn't everything, and other factors come into play, especially for gaming. The most important factor, for me at least, in 2024 is the refresh rate of the TV. 120 Hz allows for 120 FPS gaming, supported by the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, and to a lesser degree the Xbox Series X. If you've never felt the difference between 60 FPS and 120 FPS, you will be blown away. And this is what really separates the ultra cheap tier from the mid-range tier. The smoothness and the response time of 120 FPS is something like you've never experienced before. And in 2024, everyone should have a 120 Hz TV. Lastly, the display technology matters a lot. See, your main TV nowadays is LCD panels. These have subtypes like VA and IPS, which I'll discuss a little bit later. But probably the highest sought after feature in modern televisions is the OLED screen. In the most simple basic explanation that I can provide, OLED screens allow for individual turning on and off of pixels, meaning that it can physically shut off the pixels in the black part of an image, allowing for stuff like always on displays on your watch or your phone screen to even be possible. Thus, for gaming and movie watching, they're often so much better in terms of color reproduction, vividness, and just overall picture quality. However, this is a high-end feature, and you are going to be paying a premium for it. And before you lambast me in the comments, display technology goes a lot deeper than what I've discussed here. Some other things like pixel refresh times, response times, and other just generally cool features do matter a lot. However, to the average consumer, these things aren't that important and is beyond the scope of the average person when they're coming down to buy a TV. And so, the first recommendation is for the budget category. It is going to be the Roku, 55 R4A5R TV. What a name. Coming in at just barely below $300. Now, I got this recommendation from ratings.com, which coincidentally made the calculator that I mentioned earlier. When it comes to display technology, they do the best in terms of testing and reviewing, so I trust just about anything that they have to say on display. And for $300, it's pretty good, but $300 is really the bare minimum you have to spend on a TV even worth looking at. It's 55 inches, as the long name would suggest, and it has some other cool features like HDR10. However, because it's so much of a cheaper display, it uses VA panel technology, meaning it has bad viewing angles, and it also has some weird uniformity issues, brightness issues, and just general things you get with lower quality displays. Now, for the mid-range, we actually have a TV with a really cool quirk. It is the Vizio Quantum Pro LED, much better to say than the other one, coming in at just below $700. It has all the mainline specs, 120 Hz, 4K, and 65 inches. But it has one interesting feature that I've never seen in a TV before. If you turn the resolution down to 1080p, you can get it to display 240 Hz, which is amazing. It doesn't really matter too much for console gamers, but people who use home theater PCs or gaming PCs will appreciate being able to use 240 Hz on their couch. And from a distance, 1080p and 4K aren't as mind-blowingly different as they are on a computer monitor. Also, it uses the generally better IPS display technology, meaning that viewing from an angle is a lot less of an issue, and it has just generally accurate colors as well as a pleasant overall viewing experience. Now for the price, this is a really good deal, and I implore you to spend most of your money on your television, as most other categories aren't going to have as big of a difference as spending more money on a TV would. Now for our high-end recommendation, it isn't super high-end. This category goes to the LG C3 OLED Evo, coming in at a whopping $1,400. Now the crazy thing is, this is one of the cheapest OLED TVs on the market, at least comparatively, and this doesn't even scratch the surface of where some of these TVs end up in price. Other TVs in this category are roughly $2,000 or $3,000 a piece. And I've included this TV in the list because I believe that this price point is just about the best you're going to get before diminishing returns sets in. It has all the mainline features that you want, and it has an OLED display, meaning it's just miles above anything else on the list already. And because it comes from LG, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to be getting a good quality controlled product. Now on to the next part, one often overlooked by the average person: sound. A proper sound setup can bring your experience to an entirely different level, whether you're watching movies or, in this case, playing video games. And though some people take this to its extreme, called audiophiles, who obsess over every little tiny detail of sound, just getting the basics right can bring your experience from 1 to 10. Now, speaker technology differs a lot, from using your basic TV speakers to a soundbar from a reputable brand, which, if you're lucky, might come with something like a wireless subwoofer. However, in this video, I'm going to be discussing the only type of audio system that should be in any home theater, no matter whether it's gaming or movies. Surround sound. Surround sound is really the only option if you want the best possible experience you can get. Now, surround sound systems are made up of a couple different parts. First of all, the AVR, or audio video receiver, which takes in the audio and or the video and puts it out to the speaker. Then you have your center channel speakers, which are often long like a soundbar, and your surround speakers, which go to your front left, front right, and back left, as well as sometimes to your direct sides, and even above. Of course, subwoofers also make it onto this list, which allow for really good bass reproduction and give that extra oomph to explosions and gunshots. Now, my recommendation for the average person is a 5.1 surround sound system. 5 being the number of channels, or the number of speakers, in this case being center, front left, front right, and back left, as well as a subwoofer, denoted by the 0.1. I think for the average person, 5.1 is probably the sweet spot, because it has the most content available for it since it's been around for so long. It's also easy to set up and relatively inexpensive. Also, possibly controversially, I'm going to recommend you focus most of your budget on the receiver itself instead of the speaker. This is because receivers really make up the bulk of the features you're going to find on any modern system. And for the most part, speakers haven't gotten so much better over the past even 20 years that getting a newer speaker is going to be a mind-blowing experience. And sometimes you can end up with a setup like me, where my receiver cost a couple $100s a couple years ago and can do 4K, has Bluetooth, and a variety of output options. And the speakers were ordered from the Sears catalog like 3 years before I was even born. And while I could talk about audio technology all day, I'm going to go straight to the recommendations for this section to save your ears. If you're on a budget, I wholeheartedly recommend you look on eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, or even ask your family and friends for old audio surround sound systems. Often they can be found for even under $50 and are almost certainly going to give you a much better experience for much less money than even a nice soundbar. Older receivers, however, for the most part, need to use an optical cable to connect to your TV and play audio, which means you're going to have to use a compressed sound signal. This isn't optimal, but it's really not that bad. However, to deal with this problem, I'm going to recommend your first upgrade be to this receiver. My recommendation is the DENON S660H. This receiver is a 5.2, meaning 5 channels and up to 2 subwoofers, and it supports major features like 8K, which in this case means 4K 120 Hz, which is very important for me, and like I said, depends on your TV and console setup. And although it isn't really the greatest thing ever, for roughly $300, it's going to give you almost the best experience you can get, especially for the price point it's at. Although, of course, if you need more features like 7 channels or more wattage per speaker, upgrading in the same line sounds like a good idea. Hopefully, on a receiver, you need to spend roughly $500 or less to get the best experience you can. But again, make sure that any receiver that you get, provided you have a compatible display and a PS5 or Series X, can support 4K 120 Hz. This is the best case scenario. It allows for you to plug your PS5 or your Series X into the receiver and then the receiver into the TV. This means you can get uncompressed audio signals, which will make your sound much better even on old crappy speakers. And for the speakers, if you want something newer and good, I recommend the Klipsch Home Theater 5.1 pack. You can find it for a good price, often at Costco for a really good price, and it allows you to separately buy components if you need to replace them, upgrade them, or get more for a 7.1 or 7.2 surround sound setup. Now, obviously, there are a couple other things to think of when it comes to home theaters, like seating arrangements, where your TV's in the room, again, as we mentioned earlier, your ideal viewing distance, where you are in relation to the speakers, and so on. But most of that isn't nearly as important as getting the sound and the display right. And thus this video is entirely focused on those two things. Now, you're probably not going to be playing competitively in Call of Duty or being the best Apex or Fortnite player. However, this allows you to experience gaming in a way you never have before. It allows you to play older games from the PS3, PS4, and PS5 generation in their best possible experience. It allows you to take advantage of the simplicity and the ease of use of a console. And with surround sound and 4K and all these different things, you can experience games in a way that allows you to have fun again. You can play games like Mario Kart, split screen zombies, whatever you want to do, and it doesn't have to be completely focused on just performative like it is on a PC. And it brings back the essence of gaming, which is entirely about having fun. And I think that's going to wrap it up for today. If you would, please leave a like and subscribe and try to help me hit my 1,000 subscriber goal by the end of May. Thank you for watching.